So this is like when your mom says we have food at home and you want McDonald's. Yo guys, I'm back. Sorry for that wait, but I went bay hunting recently. That's right. For the first time in a while, I went outside and I went to my local Target, and sure enough, I found Wave 1 of QuadDrive. So, you guys can see here, I picked out most of the first wave. I could not find the E-Fritter set. I'm gonna call it that because we all want it for that. And also the dual packs, I just could not find them. So I picked out the starters plus the Ragnarok launcher set. So yeah, this video, of course, is not sponsored by Hasbro. In fact, I paid for all of these with my own money out of pocket. So I'm gonna be brutally honest about these products. And first things first, we're going to get started with Vanish Fafnir. Now, why Vanish Fafnir? Well, I've heard the rumors, and this might very well be the worst Fafnir Hasbro has ever made. So, we're about to find out if that is the case, and we're going to go ahead and get to a close-up. Before we get to a close-up, though, can we reach 200 likes for this video? And we're going to try to answer that question. Is this the worst Fafnir Hasbro has ever made? Let's find out. Alright, let's start with the good. First of all, Hasbro. Good job on the packaging. Oh my gosh, this thing is gorgeous. This might be the best Hasbro packaging ever for Burst. And why I say that? Well, first of all, it's all in a box. And second, this kind of like almost, I don't know, digital, it just giving me this kind of like digital early 2000s packaging for this. So really, really sick. If anything, I think it takes some inspo from maybe Plastic Gen, just again, all of just the enclosed box. And it just looks really, really nice. The green also pops. I'm not a big fan of green for packaging, but guess what? It catches your eye. It actually will pop out in the toy aisle. So really cool. Another thing, just I guess another gripe, QuadDrive, it just sounds really corny, if I'm being honest. Like just really kind of corny and cheesy. It's almost as if they're trying too hard. But I get the name quad as in 4. There's 4 and 1, it even tells you here. And yeah, it's also just kind of that glossy cardboard packaging. So obviously my light is glaring really hard off of it, but it is what it is. So this is a starter. It does include a launcher, which we'll hopefully take a look at. But yeah, you can see Vanish Fafnir bursting. I think that's something Nemesis. Stone Nemesis, I think. It's a Nemesis Evo, albeit Hasbro. In the back, we get to see the parts. And again, it's kind of just that 4-mode deal. So you have Core, and then there's Apex, and then Core, and Apex again. So there's just the 2 modes plus the tip equals 4. You get the layout of the parts. Everything looks okay at first glance, and it's not until we take a look. So here we go. I have my handy dandy Japanese box cutter knife. We are going to cut into this, but again, easily one of the best packagings. There's none of that kind of clear plastic junk. It's literally just cardboard or packaging. It's funny, they still advertise this app, even though I've heard there's microtransactions now, so it's not a good look. Here we go. Cardboard and the inside. This is actually kind of like Takartomi-esque packaging. And then I found out something big. So paper. We have paper now wrapping the parts. And only some of them because they're obviously loose. But good call on Hasbro. You know, this world is ever so changing, and by making this decision, they're cutting down on plastic waste. So I have to give them props. That's very good. Anyway, boom, we have the launcher here. And this, like every other Hasbro launcher, is pretty bad. It's hollow, first of all, if you guys couldn't tell. And it just feels really just flimsy. It has a cool design that literally says QuadDrive and then Beyblade engraved on it. But if you look at the bottom, it is literally hollowed out. The prongs just kind of move, and if I'm correct, you know, standard ripcord, right? But if you insert it, and I gotta figure out the right way to do this, but here we go. Oh, so it doesn't free spin, but that's good. I mean, it does have like a stopper kind of deal. But yeah, these launchers are just really bad. Would not recommend them. But I get it that Hasbro's included them, you know, just to have. But this really won't give you much strength. And then it is, of course, dual spin, so I have it in right spin when I really should be using it in left spin, since this is a left spin Beyblade. But there you go. Something you can just toss aside for sure. We have the instructions now. And again, all paper based, so we're good on that. It breaks down the modes. So there's core and apex. I do believe core refers to low mode, whereas apex refers to high mode, just like what Takara had. But again, we'll see what Hasbro's done exactly. Yep, the performance tip obviously has the gimmick. There's even a QR code, as usual, for the app. This tells you how to use the launcher. Just the overall standard guide. It's not bad by any means, so good way to get started if you're new, but if you've been around like me, then you know. Shoot, we might as well toss the cardboard. And again, this is all recyclable material, including this. This really just feels like tissue paper, almost. Kind of loud, but hey, not bad. So we have the parts, and I'm gonna take it apart and now get to a close-up. All right, I'm back with the close-up, and I figured I'd bring my QuadDrive Vanish Fafnir here, and we're gonna do the moment of truth. How does it compare to, well, this? Let's start off with, what is this called? I think this might be called the, shoot. So this is the drive chip, apparently. So I think what would have been called the DB core, it's now this. This is Fafnir, somehow. Wait, let me, I'm just kind of shocked. So give me a second to just compare. So this is like when your mom says we have food at home and you want McDonald's. Yeah. Yikes. What even is this, guys? Really? Like there's really like borderline any similarity. I mean, they've completely changed the color somehow. It's obviously not the same shape. I get it for the gimmick's sake. It's like rounded out. There's a lot less details. You can barely make out that it's Fafnir, really. There's these two kind of holes I'm just noticing. Not sure what that's for exactly. It's like they've cut them out though, entirely. So bizarre. Look how they massacred my boy. Like, how do you go from this to this? Like, there's obviously something wrong here, you know, when Hasbro has to really just, this is just, again, just borderline, I don't know. It's just there, okay? Slope-wise, man, I haven't seen slopes in a while, so I can't say much here. We'll find out when we test it, I guess. But wow, this is just, yikes. Here's the QR code, I guess, if you want it. All right, let's move on. Oh man, I'm feeling this right now. Look, one of Takara like greatest things ever was this. This is literally like a stress ball because it's mostly made out of rubber. You can really just kind of crush it and nothing happens to it because again, it's rubber. And you can tell if it's soft, it's really flexible. And then you look at, well, this. This is not giving in. In fact, you can hear it. This is plastic. Just plastic. There's no rubber. I'm shook. I mean, it maintains its shape. There's still that detail, so they didn't really kind of lose anything as far as details. It's obviously a different shape though, and of course it's just a lot more hollowed out. There's chunks missing on the underside. Yeah, this is sad. Fafnir is known to have rubber. They've made rubber parts before for Fafnir. Gosh, that was a lot of F's. And this is just sad. I'm just very sad. Yeah. Okay, here we go. This is the, shoot, I have to pull out the instructions. According to this, it's the gravity ring. Now, why gravity ring? This is as light as a feather. Compare it to the real deal, and you can actually feel some weight. It's obviously the same part, albeit plastic. Slightly different dimensions, I think, in the tabs, but it is completely hollowed out, and it's plastic, so this will weigh maybe a tenth of this, if I'm being honest and just kind of guessing, and we'll find out for sure. But wow, this is rough, man. Like, I know it's Hasbro, so it's obviously going to be lighter, but this is rough. This might be the only thing that's comparable, and it's the disc, because it actually looks really identical to Kartomi. It's just about the right dimensions, in fact. From the top, it all looks pretty legit. You look at the underside, though, there's definitely some weight that was sacrificed. Mainly these kind of blockier areas. But it's pretty accurate. I have to say, this might be the most accurate piece of the entire Beyblade. Feeling them side by side, this one does feel lighter, the Hasbro one. But again, it doesn't feel like overkill by any means. And this might be the biggest change for sure. That's being the driver. Again, kind of have to expect that. It's Hasbro. At this point, we all know the drivers are different. Now, this is an entirely different color. Fafnir is known to have kind of orangey, reddish drivers. So it's like the part of the color scheme, actually. It's pretty iconic for Fafnir to have this kind of color. Well, Hasbro's given it blue now. I guess because there's already blue here. But still, it's just kind of meh. The QuadDrive system, though, here's the fun part, I guess. You have 2 modes you can do. So this is the core part of the driver, and I'm probably naming this wrong, but this is what kick is, I guess, at its core. It's a flat tip, so it's actually an aggressive attack type tip. It almost looks like assault, I think. If not, maybe more so like a just wider flat tip. Pretty interesting. And then this is what would be kick. So if you guys didn't know, kick originally, it really didn't do much. So I'm not gonna like knock Hasbro down for this. This was supposed to act as some kind of like disc that the Beyblade could ride around on the stadium and kind of just glide. But that doesn't really happen because the kind of semi-defense tip here, it's just too tall, so it barely makes contact with the stadium. But it was a cool concept. Hasbro just completely ditched that. And again, it kind of makes sense just because the original didn't do much. So there's that. But I am disappointed it's not even in the right colors. But either way, QuadDrive is literally this. You just kind of attach the piece, twist, boom, it clicks in. So you do have that extra aspect of customizing, which is interesting. Again, it's Hasbro. But let's do a weight comparison now that I have my scale. And I know they're going to be lighter. It's pretty freaking obvious at this point. But let's compare. I think it's fair that we do that. So we'll start off with the more kind of obvious stuff, the armor. So what is this called? Gravity ring. So this is the gravity ring. I think this is 3. I think it's 3. Here we go. 1.54 grams. That is literally just, wow, that's a little over, okay, that's not even 2 grams. All right, let's try this. Metal. 13.22 grams. This isn't even a tenth of the weight of this one. In fact, it might be like an 11th or a 12th of the weight. That is pathetic. I'm sorry. Actually, I'm not sorry. This goes to Hasbro. This is pathetic. This is really pathetic. Oh my gosh. Okay. We'll continue. This DB core versus the, shoot, man, I really need to learn my Hasbro terminology. The drive chip. It's obviously a whole different size, and this has these kind of chips, almost like GT plus screws, so it's going to be heavier. So we'll start with Hasbro. Fafnir 4.24. All right. Move on to Takara 6.84. So about 2 or 3 grams heavier. Not terrible. Okay, well, this might be more of a serious one or significant one because we're obviously dealing with full-on rubber versus just hollow plastic. And I'm sure rubber is more dense. This is 12.99 grams. All right, well, we'll keep that in mind. Hasbro's Vanish is 7.27, so a little over half of the weight. Yeah, they just massacred my boy here. It's just okay. Let's see. We are going to compare the discs. I don't see there being much of a difference again, just because they're really close to one another. So that's cool. Let's try obviously Takara taper or tapered, I think. 29.04. Here is Hasbro's 26.14. Okay, yeah, that's barely a difference, like only 3 grams, pretty negligible. So this is the closest and most accurate part of the Beyblade. If this doesn't say anything about what Hasbro's doing with QuadDrive, this should be like a huge red flag to a lot of you, that the disc is the most accurate. That's just sad, man. Okay, I almost forgot to weigh the driver. I do see a discrepancy here just because we're talking 2 pieces plus or versus just one standalone thing. So we'll weigh it in its entirety. 9.09 for the Hasbro Kick, whatever it's called, versus 9.37. So these are really close in weight. It's actually not bad. Granted, if we take off the top part, we do lose some weight. Wow, that's a lot. Okay. Yeah, I lose about 3 or 4 grams. So we'll keep it on for this sake. Okay, let's assemble it now, since I don't even know how you put this together. So I know it definitely kind of twists. With DB, it was a lot like GT, if that makes sense. Everything just kind of like snapped. But it looks like we got Fafnir here. Can't forget the gravity ring. There's no tabs, so everything just kind of clicks in place. I guess that's convenient, right? I gotta make sure I don't mix these up. And I do think this is the Hasbro one because it's shinier. Just got unboxed. Moment of truth for the slopes. What are we looking at? Oh man, that's like butter. That is not good. Yeah, this looks like, or this feels like it's gonna burst pretty easily. Granted, it's a left spin Beyblade, so you might have some give. But yeah, that is just gliding over. And sure enough, we are going to show off the, I think it's the Apex mode. How do I even take this apart? Because nothing really kind of just slides off. It almost seems like it's just stuck. I'll have to figure this out. So it's a little tricky, but the armor does pop off if you pull it off. And then you just kind of slide it out. I think this just kind of slides in. Oh, it does. Okay, so here we go. We got high mode or Apex mode. Boom. Ooh, that clicks in. Nice. Sure enough, it's now in high mode, technically, or Apex mode. There's that gap that you get with the traditional high mode. Yeah. Okay, let's keep it back in low mode, since I think high mode and, or whatever it's called now in Hasbro, Apex. Sure, I keep forgetting. I always think it's cursed to have it in that mode because it's just kind of, I don't know, it just looks wacky. I don't like it. So I'm going to keep it in low mode. And then we're going to do a final kind of weigh-in. If I can, if this, my hands would stop shaking and let me just put this in. And I cannot put this together, man. Why is this so hard? So that took a while because I was putting it together as if it were a right spin Beyblade, and then turns out, well, it's left spin, obviously. So let's go ahead and do a final weigh-in, though. Again, we'll try those slopes, whatever you want to call them. Oh, man. This is just painful. Okay, let's put together Takara Fafnir, you know, the one with the rubber, the one with the actual gimmicks, the one with the actual colors. We'll see where that's at in comparison. Everything snaps into place. Everything's good. Put the disc on. You can feel that weight. Boom. Here's a side-by-side. And I can't even tell where's the... Oh, here we go. Okay. Well, this is Kartomi. This is Hasbro. Yeah. All right, final weigh-in. Let's see. It's Kartomi first. 71.50 grams. It's a chunker. Hasbro, 48.24. Let's try that again. 71.49. 48.25. So, shoot, you're losing about a little under 20 grams of a difference. You can feel it right away, by the way. I think the only thing that's carrying this is the disc. Like, literally, the disc is that one teammate in the video game you're playing that, like, carries the whole team. Yeah, that's literally it. Because nothing else is really going for this. And it's just, man. Okay. Let's get my stadium, though. That's enough of that. We'll test performance. Let's see what it's like. Yeah. Alright, so I'm back with my DB Stadium. I do not have the actual QuadDrive Stadium, unfortunately, but we will make do with what we have. I'm keeping Fafnir in its low mode with the, I think it's called the Apex mode, so with the extra tip. And let's try that out, see what it does. So obviously pretty calm just in the center now. I don't see this moving too aggressively, just because the tip doesn't seem to move much. But as it loses stamina, it does start to topple over. And I think it might benefit from some LED just because of the way the tip is shaped. And if we see it now, tapered does also kind of kick in, get it, kick. But see, it does roll on its side, so that might actually benefit it. Now, if we take off the extra attachment, that will reveal the attack tip, which I'm still not sure what it is exactly, but let's give it a shot. So it's obviously aggressive, like significantly more aggressive, which is interesting, I have to admit. It's an interesting take on Fafnir, given that it's always had a nothing break or whatever, absorb break deal, so that's cool. And lastly, we'll try out the high mode, whatever the equivalent is called. Trying it now in high mode with the attachments, so it's going to be nice and tall. And this is pretty unique, or pretty interesting, because it's obviously more unbalanced. As expected, it's in high mode, so there is a difference in performance. I really thought it'd be more aesthetic, but no, it obviously acts differently, which, again, interesting to see. And then lastly, we'll try without the attachment for our fourth and final mode. And just like that, we have a high mode, aggressive Fafnir. Not bad, I guess. We'll do some test battles now, but I will convert it back to my favorite mode, which I've said it before, but I really just like low mode. All right, we got it going against Cyclone Rockdivore. Gotta get the names right. Rockdivore is doing great, though they are both stamina types, so they're just gonna be tapping away. And it looks like that was a tie. We'll try the other Cyclone Rockdivore with the Flugel attachment. And we got a knockout, okay. All right, we got Destruction Bellfire with a burst. So it looks like Fafnir did burst second. By burst priority, Fafnir takes that round. Alright, both launched full power. What is Hasbro Vanish Fafnir gonna do? And it does not look like it's doing too hot. It did not burst though. Oh, okay, knockout with a burst. All right, here we go. Somehow Fafnir is hanging in there with some counterattacks, but that did not last. All right, guys, now if you've made it this far in the video, thank you, because I do have a lot to say at this point. Testing Vanish Fafnir out and really just comparing it with what it could have been. I'm just quite frankly disappointed. Granted, Hasbro has disappointed many of us in the past few years with burst, but I do think this is a new low as far as setting the bar. This by all means is terrible. It's so bad, right? So not only does it feel light, but I think the biggest insult to injury is it just feels cheap. As in the plastic, this feels definitely closer to something you'd find in a McDonald's toy rather than some kind of quality ABS. So it's definitely a big downgrade. And the fact that they did this to Fafnir is just so sad. Fafnir is easily still one of the most popular lines of Beyblades, but it is just going downhill with Hasbro. So I know it's Hasbro, and at the end of the day, their business model is to cut corners. And cutting corners means stripping gimmicks, paint, details, just about everything they can do to make the most profit. That's just the bottom line in their business model, and unfortunately that means you get this instead of this. So my advice to you guys who are deciding, definitely go with Takara. I'll go ahead and post a link or two for a more affordable listing for this, but you will have to essentially import this unless you of course live in Asia. But that is the reality of having to have this, because I don't really think it's worth it. I bought it for the sake of testing it, and it's really just disappointing. I think the gimmick with the driver is all right, but it could be more. And then of course the biggest insult is just no rubber and plastic everywhere. So that's gonna be my final verdict. I do not recommend buying this, and for the record, this video is not sponsored again, and for sure this is by far the worst Fafnir for Hasbro. Anyway, that's going to be it for this unboxing. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more QuadDrive unboxings, but also the usual mods and whatnot. So I will catch you all in the next one. Peace. Whew.